Before I start the video, I want to say there is plenty of wheelie tutorials on YouTube actually. So go ahead, look them up. There are very many people talking about the nuances and little details of a wheelie. Some more, some less. Take a broad perspective of all people, what they do, how they do it. So there are different facts and like styles of doing it. But the basics are all the same. There's power and clutch wheelie, as I will explain in a second. So learn from other people as well and enjoy the video. Hi, this video is about to be on how to wheelie the 390 Duke. It works pretty much the same on all A2 bikes in this class, but I will do a tutorial exactly on this bike because quite many of you have asked for it, so I will do it. So, wheelie has like pretty much 4 stages to learn. The first stage is just let's do it differently. You can do 2 types of wheelies, like power wheelies and clutch wheelies. I think pretty much all people know that. The clutch wheelie is where you rev the engine and with the extra revs, and the clutch you bring it up and use the extra momentum from the engine to bring it up actually. And the second one is the power wheelie, which is actually just full throttle, full open, and with some like inertia from your upper body. It's actually not pulling on the steering bar, it's rather like inertia. It's like whoop, but I will show you that in the next steps. The most important thing is to not like go into a hurry with learning. Nobody can like do the wheelies perfectly from zero. You have to take some time to learn it well, and you have to go through the steps. You have to learn how to engage the clutch properly and do your rev matching right. Not rev matching, but your revs actually. The second part is you have learned that the bike comes up a little bit and you actually start learning your rear brake. You have to learn that right from the beginning. And when you have learned to use it, or just when it like got in your subconscious how to use the rear brake, you can go a little bit further up with the wheelies. So I will show you an example right now. Make sure your engine is properly warmed up, because function everything is better. It's like power wheelies is just full throttle and some inertia. Well, that was too slow, but when you do it like here, it takes some inertia on your upper body and also proper engine revs. When the engine has enough power, it's rather on the higher RPM end, not the lower one. Depends on the bike, but for the weaker bikes like the Duke 390, you will do it like that. That's just how to bring it up. But we are only going to talk about clutch wheelies today because that's like the proper way to learn. So you have to really start with your rear brake and just get comfortable with like the pressure point where it starts braking, and just use it this way and get used to it where it is. The clutch wheelie is actually just riding slow, like 20 to maybe 30 kilometers. It's like I think 50 miles. And then I started learning like this. I revved it like that, and then I released the clutch like. You should also not drop the clutch too hard. It's actually, most people say like pop the clutch. That's not really popping. It's a very gentle but smooth and fast release of the clutch, like engagement, not release. So when you do it correctly, it's like whoom, whoom, not that's wrong. Actually, it's right whoom, whoom. And it's not like you can't really drop the clutch. You have to engage it properly, like smooth but fast. That's actually the point. So when you learn to like have proper throttle, RPM and clutch engagement, your bike will come up. And the point is also to not like close the throttle. You have to keep it open quite a lot actually. Depends on the bike, of course. But when you check this out, I don't close the throttle at all. And in the beginning you will have some troubles learning how to balance the bike. It will fall left, right, It will go up fast, it will go up a bit, and it will go not go up at all when you're learning actually. And as soon as you have learned that the bike comes up a little bit, you learn to not close the throttle but step on the rear brake. Always use your rear brake. Don't learn without it, not at all. Learn it in the first 2 to 3 steps, at best from your first step. So when you have learned like to engage the throttle, the clutch is really a play between clutch and throttle and opening it enough so that the bike comes up. When you don't use enough throttle, it will be something like this. And that's good for beginning, but you have to learn how to rev it more and keep it open more, like that's good, that's good. Next step, and always take your time to go for the next turn. Like do it like this. I didn't close the throttle, it came down by itself. Also, most people will ask, should I use first or second gear? I would tell everybody to use first gear, simply because you get used to the very, very fine details in a wheelie, in a clutch wheelie, and learn it very well. And only when you can do the wheelie very well in first gear and are comfortable with riding it actually and everything that comes with it, you can start using second gear, because it's a pretty brutal wheelie even on the bigger bikes most of the time. And that's why I would say use first gear for learning and second gear only when you're pretty good at it already. Because when the bike comes up and you're in second gear, you have to react pretty quickly to get used with your like torque and everything from the engine, that it works well. So another thing is, when the bike comes up, you will probably want to learn to shift into second gear, which is something I do when the bike just came up. I'll just do a normal wheelie right now. Now I'm like balancing a little bit with the steering bar, but that's something not for the first beginning. I would like recommend you to do it later. You have to simply just drop the wheelie, or not drop it, but come down gently with it when it doesn't work as you want it to be actually, yeah? So when it's like going left, right, it's too high, just close the throttle a little more, or just go back with the throttle, use your rear brake and set it down at the right time, early enough. Not that you like push the wheelie, you will learn it anyways with your repetition. And keep in mind that for me, for example, it took probably around 1,000 tries to get something like a well-ridden wheelie. It did take quite a lot of time. So that's the first 2 steps, bringing the bike up. That's a lot of talking on trying with the revs and the clutch. When the bike doesn't come up, you engage the clutch too slowly or rev too less. And if you do everything properly, the bike will come up and you can learn shifting to second gear and first learning the rear brake. So when the bike comes up, which is actually quite a lot of revs, quite a lot of power, quite a fast clutch engagement, you will start riding some wheelies. Well, and then you can learn to like go around the tipping point where you would tip over. But before you go there, you have to know when you're actually on the tipping point, the bike not only gets like very unstable up, forward and back, but rather left and right. So it's a very unstable system then. It likes to turn left, right, front, back. It's very like wobbly then. First, when you're not on the tipping point, it's very stable and headed forward, and as soon as you go very close to the tipping point and over, it's a pretty unstable system actually. So then the wheelie gets really like not hard, but like you have to put a lot of practice into it that it works well. So don't overdo it and take your time. So rear brake, you have the rear brake, you tip it, you see, okay, that's the rear brake. And actually I'm always a little bit on the rear brake, even when I like pull it out a little bit, not like pushing it, but a little bit. Then you do your clutch, and well, that takes a lot of training, trust me, usually at least. And when you're a little bit better and have learned your steps, you can do it without the rev bombs, right? You can do it just with one pull and pull it up. But that actually just takes a lot of repetitions, as I said already. So wheelie is nothing else than like a fast acceleration and then keeping it up with gentle throttle movements, and especially not throttle movements but rather rear brake use or rear brake usage. When you got it back up, don't freak out. Always, there's also another thing which you should keep in mind as a beginner, which I already forgot. But when I started out learning, like pretty much everybody, you have the instinct to lean forward with the upper body. You shouldn't like stretch your elbows completely, but you should like go back with the bike. That takes some inertia and training. You can also pull the Duke up in second gear, but that takes like lots of practice, and it's a really hard punch on the engine actually. So when you do it, only do it when you're already comfortable with normal clutch wheelies. I would suggest to you. It's your turn to do whatever you want. I can tell you, but that's what I would do, and how I've learned it actually. So what else? My Duke has a little bit more torque on the engine because of my modifications, but usually you can do it with a stock Duke as well, and with any other bike in this like performance class, or with this horsepower around 40 to 50 ish. What else can I recommend? Don't rush it, take your time. I can only tell you the basics. There's so much nuance in a wheelie to like master it, which I cannot tell you. It's like the best thing I can tell you is don't pop the clutch too fast, don't do it too slow. It's and use your rear brake for like how high you will go. Don't close the throttle, just go back on the throttle, and when you come down with the wheelie, you have to open it up back again, of course. It's like so that's the first step, or not the first step, the first 3 steps. And in the end, it's just practice a lot. If you have any questions, well, there's Deer, pretty funny. Let's say hello. Hi, Bambi. Okay, goodbye. As you practice, take your time and learn to use the clutch well. It's very scary in the beginning, and because you're absolutely not used to sitting on your bike with your front wheel up, of course. But you have to take a lot of time to ride with the bike a little bit up, to just get comfortable to the position and the weird way of riding this way. So it's very scary and unusual, and when you get used to it better, you're also, it takes a lot of repetitions. You will feel better and you will be loose on the controls, and it's always important to not go like crampy on the steering bar, on the clutch, on the throttle. Take your time. Do 1 hour sessions, like 1 hour of training, like 50 wheelies, and take your time between the wheelies to just get comfortable. Look for a place where you can do it in peace, in silence, where nobody's coming up and sneaking on you like, oh, what are you doing here? Fuck off and stuff. And you will get very used to it. So it takes a lot of repetitions. That's the basics. Rev, clutch, use the rear brake well, and left and right balancing is a very like not directly complex topic, but it's rather like you have simply to get used to the bike, and you will do it with your stomach basically and your ass. It's something like you have to balance it left right with your upper body too. But what does the most impact on direction of the bike, left right, is like a little impulse with your ass actually, with your ass, and a little bit also of how you use your steering bar. When you steer to the right, the front wheel will actually go to the left, and you steer to the right, and your whole bike will a little bit balance to the left, and vice versa. That's what I can tell you from my experience. Sometimes wheelies will get very well, very easy, very smooth, very balanced. It's also really dependent on the road. Sometimes wheelies go really trash and I don't like pull them through because I say, I'm turning left. Even I hang completely to the right and do everything I can to keep the bike right. Then I will just go down with the wheelie and it's all good. So far I did probably around 6,000 wheelies. It's just an estimation. I don't really know how many it were, but that's a pretty good estimation, and I've never had an accident with it. I had some like whoops, but no real accident or anything. It didn't crash my bike. And I can only say, never assume that you're already good with wheelies. Never ever. It's like good you can pull a wheelie, but never assume that you have finished it. Always assume that you learn it, that you're trying, that you have to be super alert to react well. That's actually important, and that's what I can tell you from my experience about the wheelies. If you have any questions, maybe I can make a second video about the wheelies. A second gear wheelie is pretty much the same with the clutch. You just have to do a lot more throttle and engage the clutch at higher RPM. Then the bike goes up faster. But then you have to be also very fast and alert to not keep the throttle open, of course, because you will tip over. So I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something. I can't take responsibility for your actions, so please be cautious, ride safe, try it, go slow with it, and you will be safe and learn it well. Goodbye, guys.